All right. So good afternoon and welcome to a very significant announcement here at the Cold Lake Fish Hatchery. I'm David Hansen. I have the distinguished honor of representing the beautiful riding of Bonnyville, Cold Lake, St. Paul today, and also your MC. We're joined today by the Honorable Jason Kenney, Premier of Alberta, and the Honorable Jason Nixon, Minister of Environment and Parks. And while I'm on Minister Nixon, I was very privileged to be asked by the Minister, along with a colleague, Todd Lowen, to address some of the issues in fisheries management in the province. And we made a number of changes that have seen some significant increases in participation for Albertans here, and we're on our way the right direction forward, and there's lots more to do, but just stay tuned. As well, here we have members of the Cold Lake Chamber, including President Ryan Lefebvre, Reeve Greg Sawchik of the MD of Bonnyville, and Councillors Fadieu and Jubenville and Scarson. Councillors Grau, Vining, Lefebvre, Lay, and CAO Nagoya from the City of Cold Lake. I'd also want to say a special hello to Cynthia Polyak of the Beaver River Fish and Game Association, John MacArthur representing Cold Lake Fish and Game Association, Laura Lovett of Cold Lake Search and Rescue, who have all joined us today, along with local fishermen and staff from Alberta Infrastructure and Parks. I'd like to also acknowledge special relationship this hatchery and community has with the Cold Lake First Nations, Fishing Lake Métis Settlement, and the Elizabeth Métis Settlement. The Cold Lake Fish Hatchery was built in 1986. Since that time, it's been an important part of our community, creating jobs and a vibrant fishery here in the area, lakes with important economic spin-off. To tell us more about today's special investment and announcement and Alberta's bold and ambitious recovery plan, I'm pleased to introduce Alberta's Premier, Mr. Jason Kenney.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm really happy to be here in Cold Lake. Thank you so much, Dave, for your strong representation. Super happy to be here with the Minister of Environment and Parks, Jason Nixon, as well as the Reeve and councillors joining us from the MD of Bonnyville, members of Cold Lake City Council with whom I just met, and reps from the Cold Lake Chamber of Commerce and the Cold Lake Fish and Game Club. And we're joined by our host, His Worship Craig Copeland, who of course is wearing two hats today. He's the manager of fish culture and aquatic invasive species for Environment and Parks, Alberta. And of course, he is also the mayor of Cold Lake. And I want to say a special thanks to Craig, not only for your work for Alberta Fisheries, but also for being a strong voice and defender of the oil and gas industry in Alberta. Thanks to Craig for hosting us here at the Cold Lake Fish Hatchery, which is a big part of Alberta's aquaculture industry for more than 3 decades. And by the way, it's the only hatchery in our province that will produce walleye, so the folks here keep a lot of anglers happy all around the province. I appreciate everyone coming out for this important announcement about investing in vital infrastructure and job creation as part of Alberta's recovery plan. I'm touring northern Alberta after wrapping up the spring sitting of the legislature with Jason, David, and our colleagues. We started the day here in Cold Lake with I started with a meeting with Chief Roger Martin of the Cold Lake First Nation, and very impressed by the great things they are doing to support investment, business growth, and job creation. Also had a very good meeting with Mayor Copeland and council, as well as from the mayor and councillors from Bonnyville and the RM of Bonnyville. And I just dropped by at a visit of the Alec Janvier Gallery on the Cold Lake First Nation to see some of his amazing art. He is a true cultural treasure for the province of Alberta. And after this, I'll be headed over to visit CFB Cold Lake. My dad was a 409 Squadron pilot back in the day, and as a former Minister of National Defense, I always want to see that important Canadian base here in Alberta. I'm also hoping to drop by Hamill's Meats for some of their famous jerky later on if schedule permits. It's always great to leave the political bubble and visit with folks who are working hard in industries that drive Alberta. We all know this has been a super tough year for our province, with the pandemic, the global coronavirus recession, and the oil price crash. We've been hit by a triple whammy. But as I go around the province, I see the can-do spirit of Alberta alive and well. A lot of folks are keen to get the virus under control and get life back to normal so we can get the economy moving and growing again. And that is definitely the case here in the MD of Bonnyville. You've had very few active cases since the pandemic began. So congratulations on your care, your responsibility, and your diligence. If we all remain vigilant and disciplined, we'll be able to keep COVID under control and continue carefully to reopen more of our normal lives, including a safe reopening of schools in September. I've said from the beginning of this crisis that we have to be equally focused on protecting lives, but also livelihoods. The economic, social, and public health impact of a broad, prolonged lockdown would be devastating in so many ways. And that's one of the reasons we kept Alberta's legislature open through most of the past 5 months. We had twice as many sitting days and passed twice as many bills into law as the average across Canadian legislatures, including the federal parliament, which decided to take the summer off while we were getting the job done for Alberta. The majority of the bills that we passed were either related to emergency measures to protect public health and provide things like income support, loan, tax, and utility deferrals, relief for renters and small businesses, small business restart grants, and other support for those who lost their jobs and have suffered hardship through the crisis. We had also bills that put in place the short and long-term building block of Alberta's recovery plan. In the short term, we are investing in projects to get Albertans working now, building infrastructure that will support our economy and our prosperity long into the future. And that's what brings me here to the hatchery today. I am very pleased to announce that Alberta taxpayers are investing $10.3 million in upgrades to the Cold Lake Fish Hatchery. This hatchery produces about 840,000 trout per year, including rainbow, brown, tiger, and brook trout. For anyone keeping score, that's about 65,000 kilograms of trout. The facility draws its water from Cold Lake. It heats and treats that water for use and then returns it back to the lake. The upgrades that we're funding here today, including the construction of a new recirculating aquaculture system with a new building and associated infrastructure, will allow the hatchery significantly to reduce its utility costs and its water usage. And that makes a lot of sense, including for taxpayers. On top of that, a new oxygen generator will be installed, and the hatchery's waterhead box, metal roof, and motor control systems will also be replaced. These upgrades will improve the facility's cost efficiency and help it to meet the highest biosecurity standards, all while supporting Alberta's economic recovery. They'll also create, we estimate, 40 jobs in engineering, project management, and construction. This is the fourth of Alberta's fish hatcheries that we're supporting this year with new funding. Earlier this year, Minister Nixon announced $43 million to expand and modernize the other three fish culture facilities at the Raven Creek Trout Station, the Allison Creek Trout Station, and the Sam Livingston Fish Hatchery. Ultimately, the results will be a lower cost per trout produced for more than 240 bodies of water stocked each year in Alberta. And that's a better outcome for the environment because it helps native species to recover in areas where population has been depleted, especially for the West Slope cutthroat trout along the eastern slopes of the Rockies. It's also good news for jobs and growth. Stocked fisheries generate more than $166 million a year in economic activity, much of it in smaller communities around our province. Alberta's reputation as a world-class destination for anglers and outdoorsmen translates into hotel rooms booked, restaurants filled, guides hired, and equipment purchased. It also is a draw for Albertans looking for holidays close to home, somewhere they can relax in the quiet hours, in the quiet time and nature, and get the kids to put down the iPad for a couple of hours. And great year for us to promote the Alberta Staycation. So today's investment is part of our recovery plan, a bold, ambitious, long-term strategy to build, to diversify, and to create jobs in areas like tourism, technology, financial services, petrochemicals, and agri-foods, while creating tens of thousands of jobs now. Overall, the plan makes infrastructure investments totaling more than $10 billion this year, the single largest building program in Alberta history, the largest per capita of any Canadian province, projected to create 50,000 jobs that are much needed this year. It includes projects like the $1.5 billion Alberta investment that's got the ball rolling on construction of the Keystone XL pipeline to help ensure a future for our oil and gas industry, which is so important here in the Northeast. The plan also restores Alberta's place as the best jurisdiction in North America in which to make new job-creating investments by speeding up our job creation tax cut and the red tape reduction plan. I want to wrap up by acknowledging that everything we're doing now to get Alberta through the crisis is powered by government taxpayer debt. But it's all designed to enable the private sector to get back to its key role as the creator of jobs, growth, and wealth, including the tax revenues that we will need to get us out of the deep fiscal hole that we are in. But I have no doubt that we will get there. We have the people, we have the resources, we have the indomitable spirit of Alberta to get it done. As our history has shown over and over again, in the face of adversity, Albertans always rise to the challenge. We're doing that again, and that means that we will have a brighter future. Thank you to Craig and the whole team here at the Cold Lake Fish Hatchery and everybody at Environment and Parks for what you do to stock our waterways, to ensure a vital future for Alberta fisheries, to help our environment, and to keep Alberta prosperous. Looking forward to getting this project done. Thank you very much, and looking forward to hearing from Jason and Craig. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Premier. It's now my pleasure to call upon Jason Nixon, Minister of Environment and Parks, to say a few words about today's investment in the fish hatchery. Thank you.
Different microphone requirements for Minister Nixon. Thank you for that introduction, David, and thank you to the Premier for sharing this good news today. What a great piece of news for fisheries in Alberta, a great piece of news for Cold Lake and the area for this hatchery. Let's give it another round of applause. As the Premier mentioned, the Cold Lake Fish Hatchery plays a key role in Alberta's fish stocking program. This winter, Environment and Parks hosted open house events throughout the province and online engagements to speak to Albertans directly about fisheries management. During these engagements, we heard support for an expanded fish stocking program that includes species diversification and the resumption of walleye stocking, as well as restoration stocking to support Alberta's native trout recovery programs. While our plans for walleye stocking this year were disrupted because of COVID-19, going forward, this facility right here will play the lead role in a walleye stocking program that Albertans identified as their priority. The economic benefit of the province's fish stocking program that the Premier spoke about earlier, when combined with the social and environmental value That makes this investment for this particular facility a very strong one. Ultimately, the recirculating aquaculture system that will replace the flow-through method currently used here will generate a positive return on investment through significant reduced utility costs while also reducing water usage. Equally important, these upgrades will provide quality control benefits by ensuring the facility can continue to meet the highest biosecurity standards. Whether it's the relatively new threat posed by whirling disease or other threats like invasive species, keeping our aquaculture facilities disease-free is critically important because we need to ensure we are not introducing waterborne fish diseases into Alberta's lakes, rivers, and streams. Earlier this year, Alberta's government announced that $43 million would be invested in 3 aquaculture facilities, marking the first significant investment in these facilities in decades. These investments include the replacement of the Raven Creek brood trout station to support increased stocking and a dedicated space for additional species such as tiger trout and Arctic grayling. Upgrades to the critical operations systems at Sam Livingston Fish Hatchery and Allison Creek brood trout hatchery also taken place. This reflects our government's commitment to a fish management system that is modern, larger, and more efficient while increasing biosecurity and bettering our ability to meet important conservation goals in our province. As an avid outdoorsman, I appreciate the excellent work done by Environment and Park staff at all 4 provincial fish culture facilities. I want to especially acknowledge the ongoing advocacy of my colleague MLA Dave Hansen, who is our MC today, for his tireless advocacy for improving our hatchery infrastructure and modernizing our fisheries. I also want to acknowledge the work of our fish culture manager, Craig Copeland, and his team in moving these projects forward. Fishing is an important part of Alberta's culture fabric, and few places in the world can offer the quality and diversification of fishing experiences that are found here in Alberta. Alberta's fish stocking program supports our economy, provides environmental benefits, and is the backbone of a unique outdoor experience that is fun, affordable, and can be enjoyed by Albertans of all ages in all parts of our province. Thank you again for all the work that we do at the hatchery here for the Alberta Environment and Parks employees. Thanks again to the Premier for this excellent announcement. And with that, as Dave said, we would be happy to take some questions.
Man, you're tall. I just want to, on behalf of everybody and the government of Alberta, the employees, we really appreciate the investment by the provincial government in the fish hatcheries. This is the 4th hatchery that's going to be funded, and it's really exciting in our business. I've been with the hatchery since '84, and it's really fantastic that the province is really starting to put some serious money into the hatcheries. Just picture your own house. If you don't replace the roof, you got a serious problem. And so you're seeing a lot of investment under Minister Nixon's been a great leader in terms of really investing and taking notice of the fish hatcheries. And what we're noticing out there right now, especially with COVID, is so many people are out fishing. And so we're really proud that we're going to have this facility can raise a lot of fish. But as you see by the water, it comes in and leaves. And now what we're going to be doing is actually taking all the water and cleaning it up and bringing it back to the fish. So it's really exciting, and our staff are looking forward to the future. Thank you.
So well, as the minister suggested, we can take some questions from the media if you like. But I'd just like to point out that this is the kind of stuff that happens when you have an environment minister that's actually a fisherman himself. He realizes how important this is. So please, if anybody has any questions, please go ahead.
Thanks, guys. I think we have a few outlets here. If you could step to the mic and just say your name and which outlet you represent, that would be fantastic. The mic's just right here, folks. Excellent.
Step on up if you want a question.
Oh.
Go ahead.
This is for the Premier. You've been meeting with municipalities within the Lakeland the last couple of days. What have you been talking with them about?
A whole range of issues. I'm just talking about the need for us to work in the same direction to protect people from the coronavirus recession. I'm thanking them for, in this part of the province, great results in fighting the pandemic itself. But I'm outlining the economic recovery plan and how municipalities can play a role in that by helping us to cut red tape, speed up approvals, hold the line on taxes, if possible, reduce them, encourage new business investment. And they're raising with me issues like municipal infrastructure needs. In this region, of course, certain regional issues. So it's a pretty wide range of subjects that we're hearing from people about. And I think we all recognize that we're facing a huge challenge together, and we all need to work in the same direction. I'm hearing a lot of gratitude for the investment I announced last week of $1.1 million of provincial and federal government support for Alberta municipalities. That's a $500 million increase in municipal infrastructure to help get people back to work during the recession. And it's $600 million in operational support for Alberta municipalities who have seen their tax revenues go down and their social expenditures go up because of the coronavirus recession. So those are some of the issues we've been talking about. Some of the MDs have certainly been raising the discussions around revisions to the Alberta linear tax assessment model. They're raising concerns, which I'm hearing. It gives me a chance to explain that there are some gas producers in Alberta whose top expenditure is property tax, and many of whom are teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. And we need an assessment model that ensures they don't get driven out of business because of taxes. At the same time, we need to ensure revenue stability for the MDs, and there has to be a fair balance there between obviously the taxation capacity and the capacity of businesses to survive these challenging times. So those are some of the issues we've been discussing.
Super. Do we have any other questions from media?
Hi, for the minister, please. Perhaps you can explain why the Cold Lake Fish Hatchery and kind of put it into terms of why here for this area is this investment coming. Thank you.
Well, we actually have been investing in all our fish hatcheries in the province, but Cold Lake is the most important one from my perspective because it's the only one who can make walleye. It's also our biggest hatchery and kind of the lead hatchery in the province. This is an important hatchery for not only this area because of the employment that it creates and the opportunity it creates in this neck of the woods. It provides fish all across the province. I will get Craig to come up and tell you the numbers in a second because I'm going to get them wrong. I know we do about 2.1 million trout all across the province, of which the vast majority, I believe, comes from Cold Lake. So its impact on our fisheries is felt from north to south, east to west, and it's critical for our overall fisheries management plan. I don't know if you want to add to that, Craig.
Yeah, so this hatchery in the northeast part of Alberta, we probably only stock about 10 trout lakes, but we go all over the province from this facility. We put on close to 100,000 kilometers with our stocking trucks, like the one that you see outside. We stock all the way to Rainbow Lake, all the way to the U.S. border. So about 240 lakes the province stocks. The 4 hatcheries work together. So in our business, that raceway you see there's about 1,000 kilos of fish. That almost can fit on that truck outside. So this is a place to raise fish and then transport them. It takes us a year to raise a fish, and eight hours later, that fish can be stocked anywhere, almost anywhere in Alberta.
Excellent. Hearing no more questions, I guess we'll wrap up here. Thanks, everyone. Oh, we have one more. Can you just let us know which outlet you're from?
Sure. Dan Brisboy, the Cold Lake Sun. This is for Premier Kenney. This is the question I didn't get to this morning about crime. A lot of the crime in the Cold Lake area is actually stemming from people on the Saskatchewan side.
Oh, really? I wasn't aware.
Yeah, a lot of it. Don't know the stats. What coordinations are being done between the provinces in situations like this, if any?
So the question was about what coordination is there between Alberta and Saskatchewan on a crime that's crossing the border? The answer is that I assume the RCMP, which operates on both sides of the border, are sharing information and files and coordinated action. If that's not happening, it's something that we'll raise through the Solicitor General with K Division, because they do cover both sides of the border. So the policing should be seamless. Obviously, if somebody is charged on one side of the border, then that comes up to that province's court system. But thank you for putting that on my radar screen. I will definitely raise this with Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe. We're hoping this fall to have a joint Alberta-Saskatchewan cabinet meeting where all of our ministers can come together and discuss shared files, including between the two justice ministers. And because there are so many communities, especially in this part of Alberta and Sask, that are so close. I have heard from, I was asked earlier about the discussions I'm having with municipalities, both here and in St. Paul. I've heard from both the towns and the municipal districts a real concern about the rise in rural crime, in crime generally in this area, and a very close connection between that and addiction. And I understand that there is a real challenge with, increasingly with methamphetamine addiction in areas around here that's turning into increasingly aggressive crime. That is one of the reasons Alberta's government is making massive investments in mental health and addictions to increase by, to create thousands of new addiction treatment beds. We're building new detox centers, new long-term drug recovery and treatment operations, therapeutic communities. We just made an important announcement in Lethbridge and at the Kenney First Nation about that this past Saturday. And I've heard loud and clear from municipal leaders that we need additional support for detox, treatment, recovery from addictions, as well as more mental health support. So we're going to go back and talk to the Associate Minister for Mental Health and Addictions, Jason Luan, and David Hansen's been raising this. I think that's something that we can also work with Saskatchewan on, because so much of that crime is fueling money for the drug trade because of addictions.
I think we have time for one follow-up if you've got one. If not, I think that's it. Thanks so much, folks.
Well, thanks very much. And for our folks from the community here, we'll get around to hopefully meet everybody. Thanks again to Craig and everybody from the hatchery for hosting us here today. And they're actually giving me the weekend off, Craig, to go fishing. So hopefully, who knows, I might catch some of the guys that you've raised over here. But thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your summer.